welcome to Encounter. I'm Mike Leiderman, and this year marks the centennial celebration of the birth of David Ben-Gurion, the founder of Israel, its first prime minister, its first defense minister, the man who founded the Israeli Defense Forces, and a true hero to the world of Jews throughout the diaspora as well as the state of Israel itself. We have a special program today. Later on, we will be meeting a grandson of David Ben-Gurion, Allen Secher, who is not a politician. He's in the hotel business, come to think of it, but he has some vivid memories of the man they called the Old Man. And Mr. Jack Spitzer. Jack Spitzer is the chairman of the David Ben-Gurion Centennial Committee. Right now, though, we have a special tribute to David Ben-Gurion, and then we'll be back with our guests.
Hello, I'm Marvin Kalb. In 1906, a young man left home with a dream: to establish a nation for Jews from all over the world. It could not be done by edict nor by military conquest. It would have to be built step by step with sacrifice, love, and determination. The young man's name was David Green, and his new home was Palestine. Later, both would change their names. Palestine became Israel, and David Green became David Ben-Gurion. David Ben-Gurion, founder of Israel. A Jewish state built with Jewish hands. And it came to pass on May 14th, 1948, David Ben-Gurion proclaimed the State of Israel.
One man does not build a state. So the state of Israel is the creation, the result of efforts of thousands and tens of thousands. But this I can say, that without Ben-Gurion, the state of Israel would not be in existence. And this I can say about nobody.
I did not come to Palestine to be a politician. I came to work, said Ben-Gurion. But while he worked in the fields of Petach Tikva and the vineyards of Rishon LeZion, he also worked on the dream to make this a Jewish homeland and gather in Jews from all over the globe.
To work in the land and to show our people that their own exertion, it can become a free and independent and self-reliant people in its own country.
He took his message to the settlers of the Yishuv and into Europe and America. Our 2,000-year exile will end. We will work to make it so.
A man that had a great vision, but at the same time didn't lose the touch to the realities and the wisdom to find the timing and the means by which to implement the vision.
As a young Zionist labor leader, as leader of the Histadrut, the Hebrew Workers' Federation, as leader of world Zionism, Ben-Gurion's faith never wavered. In spite of poverty, famine, divisiveness from within and enemies from without, Ben-Gurion and Zionism would make their stand in the land of Israel.
We believe in the messianic vision of our prophets, which told us that in the end of the time, there will be a redemption, Jewish national redemption and universal redemption. And all the peoples will be equal, live in peace in their own land.
After World War II, the horrors of the Holocaust became known, and the remnants of European Jewry sat stateless in refugee camps across the continent. The need for a Jewish homeland was clear. Ben-Gurion knew it was time to seize the moment to establish the Jewish state of Israel. While the people of Israel rejoiced when independence was declared, Ben-Gurion also knew statehood meant a war for survival. He led the new nation in repelling 5 Arab armies and securing her borders for the next 20 years. From the headwaters of the Don in the north to Eilat in the south, Israel now existed on the land that had been in the thoughts and prayers of Jews for centuries. Israel was an equal among the nations of the world. The dream of Ben-Gurion had become a reality.
To take a community of 600,000 and to adapt its institutions and resources to what will become in his lifetime a country of over 2 million, nobody else has done that in history. Not George Washington or anybody else. To see your country in conditions of constant war and siege, triple and quadruple its population, with the newcomers mostly untrained in statecraft and in science. This was his, it was this enormously fertile creativity in Ben-Gurion.
The greatest ambition of Ben-Gurion was to justify, not just to continue, the heritage of the Jewish people. Justify, I mean, by making our society a society that can serve as an example for freedom, for social justice, for the preference of the moral code upon all other considerations.
Worker, scholar, military leader, lover of the Bible, Ben-Gurion was a man of many parts. He looked to infuse the country with a special spirit drawn from the prophet Isaiah that Israel be a light unto nations. It must, he said, achieve a moral, cultural, and technological excellence as an example to the world in which the world would share. And the Jewish land should be a haven, a home to its people, all its people.
To make them into free people, dignified people, with self-respect, relying on themselves, better men, living by their own work, equal to all other peoples, and being able to realize the great ideals of their prophets in their own country.
Ben-Gurion served his country as its first prime minister, defense minister, and as member of the Knesset. He sought peace with Israel's neighbors while leading the country in its struggle to survive. He looked like a kindly grandfather, but walked with the greats of the century and of centuries past.
You must be able to see the future. One cannot see the future exactly, because there are always in history things which you don't see them, and they have an effect tomorrow and after tomorrow. But on the whole, one can foresee what is going to happen. One is open eyes, and without that, one cannot be a statesman.
There was a man who had courage to go to war, had courage to change things after he won a battle, and had the courage to, and the vision, to look forward to seeing where the world is going to and where Israel has to be in the family of nations.
One of his aides wrote to him, who died, wrote to him, "You will be remembered, the Jewish people, throughout the ages, together with Moses, Joshua, King David, etc. But we are so near to his time that people would hesitate to use such high words. I do too. But no doubt that's what he will be remembered in the future."
Like Moses, he led the people out of exile. Like Joshua, he led them into the promised land. Like David, he made them into a strong nation. David Ben-Gurion, a man of vision, a man of reality, a man of Israel.
Our guests in the studio are Allen Ben-Gurion, grandson of David Ben-Gurion, and Mr. Jack Spitzer, who is chairman of the David Ben-Gurion Centennial Committee. Allen, first, let me ask you, obviously you're here promoting the centennial of your grandfather's birth as well as tourism in Israel. The word about David Ben-Gurion was that he didn't have much time for anyone or anything other than the work of founding the state of Israel. How much time did you actually get to spend with him?
That's the side that most of the people don't know. But David Ben-Gurion, the time that he did spend with us was very, very emotional for me especially. He did spend time with us. He was a wonderful grandfather. He was not a man of small talk, but also as a children, I always remember that when we talked about something, any subject, and mainly it was subject of studying, learning in books, which was very, very important to him, he always carried a conversation. There was always a message there with him. Always. Also
even to the youngsters, even to you?
Even to the youngsters. For example, I remember that when I was 12, came up my birthday, and he remembered all the birthdays. He asked me, what do I want for my birthday? And it's a question and an answer. And he says, of course, it's got to be a book. And I was interested then in the history of the Roman Empire. And from asking me, what do I want as a present, it turned into a conversation of 2 hours, because it then went on. Why are you interested in the Roman Empire? Which period of the Roman Empire? Why do you think that leader? Is he positive, negative? And then he would give his thoughts about it. And why is he a good leader? Why is he not a good leader? Is he a military leader? Is he not a military leader?
This is when you were 12 years old?
This is 12 years old. And it was fascinating. It was a fascinating experience.
What about the rest of your family? How brothers, sisters?
My grandfather, for example, my father is the son. My grandfather used to write letters to my father when my father was in the British Army fighting in the Second World War. And he used to tell him about his plans. This is before the State of Israel was born. He used to write to him about all the political situation, the arguments with whether it was Jabotinsky or Weizmann, whoever it was. And he used to get a response from my father, who was serving in the army. And he used to use those letters, because he says these letters reflect what the young generation really wants. So he always relied on the opinion of the young generation. Also later, when he was the Prime Minister, the Minister of Defense, he always liked to meet with children. And he asked him, why do you like? He says, when you meet with politicians, they've got their own opinions, they've got their own ideas. They're politicians. Children are genuine. They will tell you exactly what you think. For example, he used to meet with children from Germany. And when we asked him why, he said, I want to know if the young generation in Germany is different than the generation which was in Germany in Second World War. So he used to have a conversation. He said, they are genuine, they'll tell you the truth.
What did they tell him?
He said that he found out that this is a different Germany.
Were they aware of what had happened? Had they repressed it?
Oh yes, they knew about it, they spoke about it. But he said that it's a new generation. It's a new generation that should not forget, but it's not the same thing.
Did he ever express his disappointment to you about the Jews not settling in the Negev as he had hoped?
But he was never satisfied. He once went to Dimona, which is a small city near Beersheba, and he met a group of children, again children. And a girl of the age of 10 got up and asked him, Mr. Ben-Gurion, when was the day that you were most satisfied in your life? He looked at her, he thought a minute, and he answered, what is satisfaction? I was never satisfied, because the moment you become satisfied, you become pampered, you become lazy, you're not creative anymore, there's no imagination, you don't want to do anything. And he said, so that's why I was never satisfied. Always I'm pushing forward. Yes, with the Negev he was disappointed, because he was a leader. He thought that he should show the way to the youngsters, and that's why he went to Sde Boker, and he settled in the 50s with the young boys and girls who settled there. Except for several hundred boys and girls who finished their army and came after him, most of the people didn't want to go to the Negev. And for this he was very disappointed before he died.
What would David Ben-Gurion think about the way Israel has developed today? Would he be disappointed at the fact that the country has such mundane problems, it seems, and it doesn't have that vision that he seemed to have brought to it?
Well, I think that he would be very clear in his position, because he wasn't a man to equivocate. He stated his ideas and had very strong ideas. And interestingly enough, Teddy Kollek, who served as Director General of the Prime Minister's office from 1952 to 1965 and was very close to the old man, Teddy Kollek said to us the other day that he would have concentrated on the development of the Negev, and that he would not have the commitment to develop Judea and Samaria as the Likud government has indicated.
He was not a territorialist so much as a populist. He wanted people. He did not care about the land to
he
the
said
degree.
already.
He wanted immigration. He wanted immigration into Israel.
He said in 1948, he said, and I'll quote him, He said, I'd rather have a Jewish state on a small territory than having a large territory without a Jewish state. That he said in 1948. It was very, very important, and his question was also regarding the West Bank. He said, the Jewish people have got to make up their mind. What do they want? Do they want a Jewish state, which is ours, that maybe in territory is smaller, but it's ours? Or we want to share it with someone else? That's the question that we've got to answer ourselves.
Do you think he'd be upset with what he sees in Israel today, Allen?
He always, he dreamt about a couple of things, and all his life he struggled for that. He wanted that after 2,000 years we've got our own state. He wanted to settle the Negev. He couldn't understand how, after we've got a state, how Jews live in the diaspora. For him, the history is two periods in history. Till the destruction of the Second Temple, and from the declaration of the State of Israel. All the 2,000 years, he was not happy about them. He was not proud about the Jews being in the diaspora, about all our history, that we were all over the world, that we were all the time subject to other governments. We always need to look for protection from other countries. Finally, we've got our own state. We stand on our own feet. We've got our own army. We can protect ourselves. We don't have to beg and to ask for anybody. And he could not understand that after 2,000 years we are dreaming and praying for a state. Now we've got a state and people are not coming. So in that respect, I think he would be a little bit disappointed, but he would struggle to bring everybody back. I'm sure that if he would come here and address the assembly in one of the days here, he would talk about immigration to Israel immediately.
Even as he was never satisfied, his disappointments never discouraged him. He was a man of indefatigable commitment, a genius with a mission. And he pursued his visions, his concerns. And he wouldn't let, problems stop him. He dealt with them.
Part of Ben-Gurion's brilliance was his ability to see into the future. He has said that no one, of course, can foretell all the future, but the ability to tell what's going to happen in some parts of the future really makes a statesman. And he had that brilliance.
You're right. He had a great sense of timing, and this is what made him one of the giants of the 20th century, and this is why all Americans, not just Jews, but all Americans should know about David Ben-Gurion. This is the mission of the Centennial Committee.
What are you finding now? Are you finding now, he was retired from politics now for almost a quarter of a century. He passed away in 1973. Are you finding that among people in the Jewish community and the secular community that the memories of Ben-Gurion are ebbing, that they need to be refreshed?
Well, I think we started clearly from the understanding that we had to go into the schools and teach about this man, that those under 35, which is Alon's age, those under 35 really didn't have a distinct perspective of this great man. So that we have concentrated on the schools, both the Jewish schools and the general schools. Our Peace and Scholastic Update, and we anticipate will reach 80% of the high school students in the public schools of America, and we are servicing the Catholic parochial schools and the Protestant parochial schools as well. With our Academic Committee of University Presidents, we are reaching out to the Negro colleges, and I was amazed to find that there are 121 black colleges and universities, and we're reaching into this area.
What's been the response from
the response has been excellent. The interest in David Ben-Gurion and the message of his life and his values and his vision has been heartwarming. We really have been so gratified to see the new areas of learning and interest that are available to us through effective development and exploitation, which I think is a good word, exploitation of the David Ben-Gurion Centennial Celebration. I think we in the United States here will have a new appreciation of Israel and what it stands for, thanks to the celebration of this young man's grandfather.
Interesting. He was the founder. He was the organizer. He was the prime mover of the State of Israel. And to you, he was grandpa.
As a child, he was a grandfather. With children, he was right about what he thought about children. Children are honest. When I used to go out and I had my own friends, no one cared if my grandfather is the prime minister, the president,
They didn't?
Children, when you are the age of 8 or 9, children don't evaluate you if your grandfather is the prime minister. They evaluate you if you're good in baseball, if you're good in football. you are with them. If you are bad in one of these fields, believe me, if your grandfather is the prime minister, it won't help you.
Doesn't make a difference.
Now, later
But more
on...
than that, he was a simple man. He really was, in many ways, a very simple, a very down-to-earth human being. The dignity of labor, he wanted the feeling of the land, you see, in his hands, commitment to the desert. He was really a very simple man. He wasn't an aloof and sophisticated personality. His taste was simple.
But he was an academician, he was a scholar, he was brilliant, and he also did not get his hands dirty.
For example, food. Food was only means to survive. Clothing. He used to go with khaki clothes, with an open shirt, collar shirt. He loved to wear the battle dress of the army because he loved the army. For example, theater, movie. I think the last movie that I saw with him when I was this small, it was Exodus, the premiere of Exodus in Israel. So I went with him, this was the last one. Theater and all these things that, going out, cocktail parties.
Not for him.
It was not for him, for him it was a waste of time. Because really, he was not a man of a small talk. He had this kind of a personality that on the one hand, he questioned everything. He questioned everything. He questioned, if there was a subject that we had all the answers about it, and he was not satisfied, he will go in and question it. So he had this curiosity of like a little child, when a child grows up and he sees new things, that was him. But on the other hand, he made decisions pretty fast.
That's another fascinating thing about his personality, the fact that while he had some positions that weren't popular with everyone, to be sure, there was never any attempt to topple Ben-Gurion. He was the leader.
He had a mission, and I think that all his life he knew that he's got to fulfill this mission, that he's got to be a leader. He was asked once, when did you decide to become a leader of the Jewish people? He said, when I had questions and no one else could answer them. So then I decided I've got to answer them. And all his life, he lived that in front of him there was the mission. Also when he left office already, when he was very, very old, after my grandmother died at 1968, he had one mission, and he knew, by the way, that all his life, that he's going to die at the age of 86. He said, I am going to die at the age of 86. My father died at 86. I will die at 86. He celebrated his birthday on 16th of October. He passed away in December, 2 months later. He missed it in a month and a half. But after my grandmother died, he had one mission. That is to write the history for the future generations. And you couldn't take him away from there. He sat 18 hours a day and wrote the history of the Jewish nation. 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And it's unbelievable. But that's how he worked, with a mission in front of him.
As you were growing up, were you aware of this presence? This man your grandfather was so special?
You can't, that's what they say, you can't avoid it. You see, a lot of people used to come and say to us, we can't talk with Ben-Gurion, he doesn't talk. Ben-Gurion loved to talk with everybody. The problem was that, let's say, he was writing, and people used to come into him, and they wanted to talk with him. His presence, they couldn't speak. You know, they used to choke. And I spoke with these people afterwards, many, many years later. They said, Alon, we wanted to talk with him, but you stand with history. You stand with history. And they just choked, and they couldn't. And afterwards he asked us, why don't these people don't talk with me? Why they don't talk with me? You see, it's not because of him, it's the people who walked in.
There was another famous story about how Ben-Gurion received a visitor, and the visitor complained that he wanted to chat, and Ben-Gurion wouldn't chat with him. And Ben-Gurion got wind of that and said, well, send the man back to me. So he came back, and Ben-Gurion was working and looked up at the guy and said, you want to chat? So chat. But he was not a man to...
But he had a great sense of security, also personal security. The anecdote told about Ambassador Ogden Reed came to see him one day, and he was standing on his head doing yoga exercises. And Ambassador Reed wanted to talk to him. He said, stand on your head, we'll talk. And he did. The ambassador stood on his head, he stood on his head, and they talked. He had a great sense of personal security because he knew that he was doing, you see, that which was his mission.
Interesting idea. You have to stand on your head to talk to them.
Oh, yeah.
And yes, as you grew older, how old are you now? 1986.
Sunday, 35.
Okay, so you came post creation of the state of Israel, let's put it that way. As you grew older, was it a question of growing to appreciate who he was, or was that something that, as you say, you had as a kid, and you knew that Grandpa was super special?
I think that more later, after he passed away, I started to realize what a giant personality he had. And today, even more. More and more. As the time passes, and also in Israel, the people in Israel, because that's the feedback that I get, because people come up to me when they know that I'm the grandson of. And people who, when he was alive, maybe opposed him in his political way. Today, people start to understand the messages that he gave. What he thought about and said, in every speech he had a message. In every article he wrote, there was a message. Every book he wrote, there was a message to the Jewish people. But things that he said in the 50s, today only people start to understand them, what he talked about. When he said them then, people argued with him, but they didn't understand what he's talking. Now, they agree, and today they come to me in Israel, people from both, from the right, from the left, they say, where's your grandfather today when we need him?
And you don't have a problem carrying the name around, huh?
I try.
He's
a giant.
Do you feel that kind of weight?
Sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, sometimes.
As a frustration, or?
No. Listen, he taught us one thing. He said, not everybody has got to go into politics. And you won't find anybody in our family who went to politics. All of us went to business, other to universities, etc. He said, whatever you do, do good and try to be the best. Not everyone should be a politician. And he's right. To compete with him, I think it's a little bit difficult.
So you're in the hotel business?
I'm in the hotel
it?
business,
Okay.
yes.
And on the other hand, he was very sensitive to the problem of nepotism. Alon will tell you that his own father, Amos, son of David Ben-Gurion, really was denied opportunity because David Ben-Gurion didn't want to think that Amos, his son, was getting special privilege because it was his son.
Jack Spitzer, chairman of the Ben-Gurion Centennial Committee. Alon Ben-Gurion, grandson of David Ben-Gurion. I thank you both for being with us.
Thank you.
Our privilege, our pleasure.
I'm Mike Leiderman. Thank you for joining us here on Encounter. We will see you next time.